Tashdile, this is Sakina Bhatt and welcome to Tibet This Week, a weekly news on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's look at the headlines. His Holiness the Dalai Lama appeals for joint effort in overcoming global threat. His Holiness the Dalai Lama condoles demise of environmentalist Bahuguna. Sikyong Penpa Tsering takes oath of office, pledges dedication for peaceful resolution of Sino-Tibet conflict. US House Speaker Pelosi, MPs and ministries from different countries congratulate Sikyong Penpa Tsering. Outgoing Kashag bids farewell, receives virtual audience from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Department of Information and International Relations launches new Tibet Museum in Gangchen, Kyishong. 70 years of oppression in Tibet, researchers highlight rights violations and destruction by China. Scottish Parliament's cross-party group on Tibet pushes for global response to climate change in Tibet. A Tibetan in Switzerland concludes 1,000 kilometers solo rally for Tibet. Wednesday this week was observed as the full moon day of Sakadawa, also known as Buddha Purnima, the day that commemorates the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and Mahaparinirvana. On the occasion, His Holiness the Dalai Lama called on his followers to join together in doing whatever we can to overcome the global threats we face, including the COVID-19 pandemic. His Holiness the Dalai Lama also gave teachings for Mongolians and Tibetans on the auspicious day.
If you do good, if you create good karma, then you will have a good fruit of that as happiness, in the form of happiness. And if you are not able to do anything good, and you pass your life like that, then the Buddha cannot save you.
Venerable Karma Gyalek Yuthok, Kanoi for Religion and Culture, CTA, also delivered a speech on the occasion of Vesak, International Buddha Purnima, organized by International Buddhist Confederation, Delhi, and Asian Buddhist Conference for Peace. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has expressed his sadness on learning that his good friend, Sri Sundarlal Bahuguna, had passed away at the age of 94 on Friday last week. His Holiness admired the way Sundarlal Bahuguna made ahimsa the core of his tireless campaigns to protect the environment. Mr. Penpa Tsering was sworn in as the Sikyong of the 16th Kasha on Thursday morning at the seat of the Central Tibetan Administration. His Holiness the Dalai Lama addressed the event virtually and congratulated the new Sikyong Penpa Tsering while commending the outgoing Sikyong Dr. Lobsang Singye for his outstanding service during his 2 tenures over the last 10 years. Dwelling on his efforts to democratize the Tibetan polity in Tibet and later in exile, His Holiness said that the Tibetan democracy in exile is not a sham but a genuine democracy comparable to all other world democracies. Following the swearing-in ceremony, Sikyong Penpa Tsering made his inaugural address. Sikyong spoke about his commitment in seeking relief from the critical challenges being faced by endangered Tibet and the suffering of the Tibetan people by dedicating to resolve the issue of Tibet by reaching out to the Chinese government to find a mutually beneficial, negotiated, and a non-violent solution.
I reiterate my commitment to direct all my energies in carrying out the responsibility of finding a lasting solution for the Sino-Tibet conflict and looking after the welfare of the Tibetan people. The Chinese government has, on the 21st of this month, issued a white paper titled Tibet since 1951, Liberation, Development and Prosperity. All I can say today is that we are open to sending people to verify the claims made in the white paper. On the 23rd of this month, a severe earthquake shook Golok region in Tibet. We express our solidarity with all the Tibetans who have been injured or lost their property due to the natural disaster. Number 4, one of the first tasks of the administration would be to look into what more can be done to contain the spread of COVID-19 within the Tibetan communities in India and Nepal. We will review the structure of the COVID task force, both at the central and local level, and take all possible remedial measures. I will be issuing a statement on remedial measures and guidelines by the administration in a day or two.
Mr. Penpa Tsering is the fifth directly elected Sikyong, earlier known as Kanlun-Tipa. He succeeds Dr. Lobsang Singye as the third Sikyong to be elected since the complete devolution of political authority by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in 2011. Due to the restrictions on gathering imposed by the state government of Himachal Pradesh out of COVID-19 concerns, the oath-taking ceremony was live-streamed on Tibettv's Facebook page, which was viewed by more than 20,000 people from across the world. Tibetan Chief Justice Commissioner Sunam Norbud Hakpo administered the oath of office and secrecy to Sikyong Penpa Tsering. Ever since Sikyong Penpa Tsering was elected the president of Central Tibetan Administration, he has been receiving congratulatory messages from leaders around the world. Speaking about the resilience of the Tibetan people, U.S. House Speaker Honorable Nancy Pelosi said, "Now more than ever, your resolute voice and tireless leadership as Sikyong will be necessary to carry on this vital tradition and advance the cause of peace." Parliamentarians and Tibet supporters from across the world, including Canada, UK, Baltic states, European Union, Chile, France, Belgium, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic, congratulated Sikyong Penpa Tsering and expressed their warm wishes and renewed support to CTA and the cause of Tibet. Welcoming the new Sikyong, the Australian All-Party Parliamentary Group for Tibet pledged to continue supporting Tibetan struggle during a meeting held at the Parliament House with the newly arrived representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration, Mr. Karma Singye. His Holiness the Dalai Lama granted a virtual audience to CTA's outgoing president, Dr. Lobsang Singye, and the members of the 15th Kashag this morning as they bid farewell on the completion of their tenures. The outgoing president, Dr. Lobsang Singye, expressed his appreciation for all the farewell events held by many people and organizations from different countries to express their gratitude for his 10 years of service. In his farewell address, the outgoing president thanked all the Tibetans for their support and for giving him the opportunity to fulfill his late father's last words, which were to be of service to His Holiness the Dalai Lama of Tibet and to work for the cause of our occupied nation.
My role as the Sikyong ends today, but my resolve to fight for the Tibetan cause will continue and will remain strong forever. I was born a freedom fighter, and I'll die a freedom fighter.
The Department of School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Education, Government of India has approved the transfer of the remaining 6 CTSA schools to Samboda Tibetan School Society. In pursuance of the decision of the Union Cabinet, the Central Tibetan Schools Administration has so far transferred 33 pre-primary, 9 primary, 5 middle, 5 secondary and 3 senior secondary schools to Samboda Tibetan School Society, a registered society run by the CTA's Department of Education. New Tibet Museum in Gangchen, Kyishong, CTA, was launched by the outgoing president, Dr. Lobsang Singye, after a successful completion of the preliminary stage at Central Tibetan Administration on Tuesday this week. The outgoing president, Dr. Lobsang Singye, regarded the establishment of the museum as among the top priority of his tenure, including the Each Other project and the handing over of CTSA to Samboda administration. Coinciding with China's propagandistic claims of 70 years of liberation of Tibet, the Tibet Bureau Geneva organized a 3-day virtual event on Friday last week on the 17-point agreement and 70 years of oppression in Tibet, with series of panel discussions where notable speakers and researchers highlighted China's systematic violations of human rights and destruction of culture and natural environment in Tibet and China's politics of liberation and non-compliance. The Human Rights and Humanitarian Aid Committee of the German Parliament issued a declaration on the signing of the 17-point agreement between the government of the People's Republic of China and the representatives of the then Tibetan government 70 years ago, highlighting the violent repression and systematic human rights violations being carried out in Tibet by China for the last 70 years. The Scottish Parliament's cross-party group on Tibet issued a two-page statement on climate change on the third pole, a summary and analysis of recent scientific findings by the Scottish Centre for Himalayan Research, the University of Aberdeen for the cross-party group on Tibet on Saturday last week. The cross-party group on Tibet also calls on the UK government to ensure that the issue of climate change in the third pole is addressed within the context of COP26. Tsering, a resident of Winterthur, Switzerland, concluded his solo cycle rally before the UN, carrying an appeal to the Office of UN High Commissioner for Human Rights in Geneva on Friday last week. 46-year-old Wang Du started his solo cycle rally on 7th May from Winterthur to Geneva, covering almost 1,000 kilometers in poor weather to raise awareness about the 70 years of violent repression in Tibet and to make China accountable for its human rights violations. The 70 years referred to the period since the signing of the 17-point agreement under military threat between Tibet and China in 1951. So much for this week. See you next time and have a good weekend.